a long-term vision for what you want or need or are trying to accomplish field and facility-wise?
Yes, we do. And again, it will involve doing some stuff with our fields here to give us to create an even better practice environment outside.
Anything you can share about in particular what you're looking for?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to rework the fields, put in drainage, stuff like that.
Same. Sorry, one more. Same for FedEx, or is that just in Ashburn?
Well, that's just here for right now. I mean, as far as the field's concerned, I thought the field was excellent last Sunday. I thought the guys did a great job getting it ready to play. I also think it's one of those things too. And the only thing that you're doing right now is playing football on the field. It makes for a pretty good field. So, it was good. It really was.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right.
Hey, Ron, it's Chris Russell. I don't know if we've talked about this specifically this week, but Chandler Jones, obviously, the 19 sacks. We all know he's a great pass rusher. What stands out to you on film about him, the way they use him, how much he kind of wrecks a game plan or challenges, a game plan, anything that you can share with us that's not game plan related per se?
Well, pretty much what you said. He does wreck things. It does make things hard on the offense. You do have to account for where he is in terms of his alignment and understand, what they're trying to do with him when he's in certain positions. So he definitely is a guy that you got to pay attention to.
Hey, Ron, last year you and the Panthers beat the Cardinals. You got to Kyler Murray 8 times. What do you remember about that game, and specifically, how were you able to get to Kyler on such a consistent basis?
Probably the biggest thing I remember is that, it was their third game with Kyler as their starting quarterback. They had some success moving the ball in their previous 2 games against Detroit, who they tied, and Baltimore, who they lost against. But he was a dynamic player, very athletic. That he moves very well in the pocket. He's a guy that you've got to be able to account for once he gets outside the pocket, because if you don't bring rushers at him, he'll tuck it and run. And the thing about him too is when he's scrambling, he's not looking to run. He's looking to make plays downfield. He's looking to extend the plays. Running is, in our opinion, his last option. I think that when he starts moving around back there, he's buying time for his receivers to get open. And the biggest thing we have to do is limit that. We've got to be able to keep bringing the rushers at him.
Thank you.
All right, I guess I'll go. Hey, Ron, it's John Kime. I'm curious, without fans at the stadium, how did you find yourself adjusting during the game where you as far as like to make sure maybe the other side someone else doesn't hear you? How did you adjust just with your coaching during the game?
Well, I will say the ambient noise did help a little bit as far as that's concerned. And really, the only time I really noticed there wasn't any fans was one, any time, you're first coming onto the field or going out onto the field, when there was a little bit of a break, you kind of looked around. But when the game's happening, you're focusing in on what's going on the field. It really doesn't, that really doesn't seem to play into it. I will say there were a couple times I was kind of wishing we could have a little bit more of a crowd noise, especially, fourth quarter when they got the ball with about 6 minutes left to play. I was kind of wishing, I wish we had the crowd going right now. That would be cool.
How did the ambient noise help?
It kind of drones things. It doesn't echo as much, because like when we practiced there, a few weeks ago when there was no fans, and when we didn't have the noise going, you could hear the echo. But with the droning of the ambient sound, it kind of kept that from happening.
Ron, we've seen a number of teams lose top players to injuries already, and I don't know if the rate is higher than in past years, but I know there was that general concern with the limited offseason that guys would get hurt. Did you guys do anything differently in terms of altering your practice regimen or taking additional measures for recovery to help guys this year?
Nikki, the biggest thing that happened more so was what the league and the Players Association had mandated, and that was we went through a ramp-up period, which I thought was very good. I really appreciated it. I do know one thing, from my experience, my first 9 years as a head coach, is that our soft tissue injuries were down big time. We didn't have as many as we had in the past. from my recollection. So looking at it, I thought the ramp up period really helped us. We talk about practicing at an up tempo, at an up pace. I think that helps us with our conditioning. I think it helps to develop that callousness that you need to in terms of hitting and getting used to being hit and pushed, and that way the little bumps and bruises, the nagging injuries don't seem to affect you as much. I thought our guys handled that pretty well. But like I said, Nikki, everything came off for the most part what the league and the PA had set up for us with the ramp up period, going right into pads, and then the limited number of practices you were allowed to have in full pads. I think that really helped us this year. I do. I can't wait to see the data as when we see all the data from training camp and then the regular season tied in.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if the schedule's going to be the same next year given the circumstances, but is there anything you guys did that you've found has worked that you'll try to carry over into next season?
Well, I do know this. Again, from my first 9 years as a head coach, by my third year, Ryan Vermillion, who's our head trainer, who was with me in Carolina, one of the things that he and I talked about was the length of practices. That once we got past the 2 hour and 15-minute mark, my first few years, that's when we had a number of soft tissue injuries. So we very rarely go past the 2 hour and 15-minute mark as far as practice is concerned. That's just kind of the way we stick to it.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ron, I know he's questionable, but what would it mean to have Kendall Fuller back?
A lot. I mean, obviously, based on the things that we want to do with our coverages, when you have a guy like him out there and you got him, shadowing players, he's a special guy. He's got that kind of ability that he can help make a difference in the game plan.
Thanks.
Hey, Ron, after the last game, you said that initially you thought maybe on offense you guys were reaching for things a little bit, and then you and Scott talked, and obviously things progressed from there. Not every head coach is involved on both sides of the ball, particularly the side of the ball that's not their natural space. So I'm just wondering for you, how much are you into the true nuances of the offensive game plan at this point?
I'm not. The biggest thing I am, trying to do as the head coach is manage the flow of the game. That's more so that what I really kind of look at when I'm on the offensive side. I mean, certain things, to me, dictate certain things as a signal caller, and just kind of relying on my past experiences. One, sometimes when you get down, you want to press, and so as you look out there and you're pressing, you're calling things that you typically wouldn't. And Scotty being a relatively young at being a coordinator, he's going to do that every now and then. So it's my job to just kind of get him to calm down, get back into his realm, and call the game the way he did. I mean, I didn't sit there and tell him what to do. I just wanted to just get him to, hey, settle in. He's so competitive. He's no different than any other player. He wants to make it all up at once. And once you saw him get into the flow, you saw the play calls, you really sit there and I really thought, man, I love this mix. And we stayed with it, and lo and behold, we got into a huge positive situation.
You mentioned, obviously, Scott is relatively new at this. Obviously, Dwayne, a young quarterback. How important is it, therefore, to have a guy like Ken Zampese around who's, been there, done that when it comes to, running offenses?
Well, Scott's done the same thing. Scott's been there, and he's done that. Scotty was with us in Carolina when we first started with Cam Newton. He was part of that staff that with Rob Chazinski that really put all that stuff together, and we were together for 2 seasons, and then he goes on and he's in Minnesota with Teddy Bridgewater, so he's got that kind of experience working with first-time quarterbacks, first-time starters. With Kenny, it's the same thing. Kenny was fortunate enough to have been in Cleveland when they had Baker Mayfield for his rookie year. So again, both those guys have that kind of background, and so they work well together, which I think is important. And as I told everybody too, the one thing about both those guys that I talked to when I interviewed them was having a plan for a rookie quarterback, and even though Dwayne was going to a second year, I wanted that kind of plan to kind of see where they were and how they would treat him and what they would do with him. And to me, both those guys had the same types of ideas.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ron, Scott Abraham, ABC 7. Obviously, Dwayne Haskins, still young, growing with every game out there in the NFL. What do you want to see from Dwayne against Arizona that you didn't see against Philly?
A little more consistency. Early on he wasn't very consistent. but you started to see it start to improve. I'd like to see him start fast and be consistent from that point, more so than anything else. I mean, again, he's done such a good job with everything that we've put in. He's done such a good job with, you know, the things that I've asked of him, you know, the intrinsic things that you know that really aren't measured in terms of leadership, you know, controlling certain situations, that type of stuff. That's what I like to see.
Last one. Is that it? All
We're
right.
good. Cool.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.